everybody, Mr. Lapolt here. It's our first disco, it's our first lesson, that I'm sending out. So today we're going to talk about disco. This is the new classroom. So we'll pan around quickly. It's my bike. Here's a map. I'll be doing global studies up there. I got to move my tree out of the way. Got a lot of stuff here. This is where I can keep all my race stuff that I'm involved in, some Christmas decorations. My bike's over here, and this is it. It's kind of my man cave. Do some riding. Anyway, here's our classroom. So basically what we're talking about is disco. Now let me just tell you this. I'm a classic rock and roll guy. I love the 70s rock and roll. That's what I love. And but I'm here to bring every genre of music to you. I gotta tell you, I hated disco growing up. I had a Death Before Disco shirt back when I was like 10. But frankly, as I've gotten older, and I'm an old man now, I don't mind disco so much. Now here's why disco changed the world. So let's just go through it quickly. Number one, disco saved dancing. Everybody loved to dance in the 1950s. All of a sudden the Beatles come around, and we've talked about the significance of the Beatles and how important they were. But you can't dance the Beatles. If you don't believe me, go put on some of your favorite Beatles songs and try to dance. And you can't dance to the 70s classic rock and things along those lines either. So by the 1970s, people want to start dancing again. So discos, the dance clubs are going to really start in New York City in the early 1970s, mid-1970s. So disco is going to emerge in the 1970s, and it's going to bring back dancing, and it's not going to go away. The rise of the DJ. The first two DJs, a guy named David Mancuso and another guy named Grasso. They were DJs in dance clubs in New York City, and they started doing classic DJ things, number one, remixing or mixing songs. They realized that people wanted to dance, they didn't want to leave the dance floor, so they started extending songs. So they would play one record, and then before that record would end, they would play another one, and then they would announce all the songs and call people out on the floor. They would set all kinds of things in motion like that. Started mixing stuff, which also invented the remix, the DJs. DJs, they become viable parts of the music world. And 95% of what DJs do today came straight from the 1970s, out of the disco movement. Inspired social liberation. Dancing was typically two people. You couldn't even go on a dance floor if you didn't have a partner. Partners had to be male, female. When the disco scene emerges, not one, it encourages people to dance solo. Never had that happen before. And two, it's open to all marginalized people. African Americans, Latinos, people with sexual identities. It encourages everybody to hit the dance floor. So this whole new energy hits, and the clubs are welcoming to everybody. And you'll start to see the bands. The disco bands are comprised of African Americans and some white people and some Latinos and women and men. So it's very diverse. The disco bands are very diverse. And as I send you disco songs over the next week, you'll see how diverse they are. By the way, sorry for my attire. I just got done with a run, so I apologize for that. Kind of keeping it casual. But to make you guys feel at home, I am still working on my coffee. Hold on. Woo! Anyway, so where were we? Okay, the social liberation. It really embraces marginalized people, and that becomes a major scene, and that still carries into today. Music's accepting of everybody. Invented the remix. We talked about that. And last but not least, I'll talk about how disco never really died. The only thing that died was the name disco. Disco sort of over-commercialized itself. The John Travolta Saturday Night Fever movie was spectacularly successful. The clothes, the bottom, people had too much. It kind of blew up on itself, but just the name only. Everything about disco is still really around. The house music today, and the house parties, and that whole scene, and the dubstep, and the techno, all that stuff is basically digitized disco. It's still around. The dancing, it's still around. And just a little foreshadow of what we're going to do later, we'll watch how this disco, before it kind of disappears, it merges with classic rock to sort of form what we know as pop music today. So that's that. So I'm going to send you disco. I've been sending you disco song every day, disco song of the day. So feel free when no one's looking, you put it on, you maybe do some disco moves. I would encourage you to send me some requests. I can put the request out. Maybe we could turn the basement into a little disco here. I'll get a disco ball. We'll start. I can teach you the disco, the disco, the 8-step beat, the John Travolta moves. It's good stuff. That's what we were gonna do. We'll do our best. Anyway, it's been great talking to you guys. Make sure to keep responding to the disco song of the week. That's gonna be your assignment. One little sentence on what you think of the song. Anyway, Lapolt out.